As with most comedy trailers, they away a lot of the really good lines in the trailer. But
Yeah,
anyways, welcome to the Movie Hero Network, ladies and gentlemen. I am Austin Pez Howell. This is Wheel of Movies number 46, inching ever so closely to 50 episodes. I can't believe it already. But I'm here with my pal, as always, Richie Goodacre. How you doing, Richie?
yeah, no, going good. Yeah, it was another comedy, back-to-back comedies, but
Mhm.
yeah, very here to talk about our first Steve Martin movie. I'm sure I was sure we're going to get to him eventually. I'm glad this is the first one of his earlier ones, which is kind of fitting.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of the one that really kind of put him out there on the map, for sure. And we were talking about 1979's The Jerk. So we could talk about 99 last time with Big Daddy. We're heading back another 20 years. Yeah, talking about Steve Martin, a guy who we haven't talked about just at least I don't think so. He didn't have like a cameo or supporting role in any of our previous things, I don't think. I'm trying to make sure he didn't just have some like at least random cameo in some movie. I don't think so. But yeah, I think this is our first time. We talked about Adam Sandler last time. Now we're talking about Steve Martin, kind of a comedy icon, one of those guys who's just kind of been a staple of everyone's lives for the last, almost 50 years, I would say, realistically.
Yeah,
I mean, he's been doing stand
yeah,
up since the 70s. This was one of his big kind of breakout movies. I know he was kind of popped in and out of SNL, in the 90s, and he was really becoming a big star. And I think this is a big hit movie that kind of cemented it. But yeah, Richie, yeah, I'll kind of just start with asking about Steve Martin in general, and then I'll get to the facts of the movie. Like, what's your history with Steve Martin in general? Maybe not this movie, but like maybe just how you came to know him or his filmography or what have you.
it can his filmography from probably from like uh yeah, just like watching you know, comedies from back then. I probably because of when I grew up, I probably watched one of his later ones first, like Bowfinger, and then I just went
Mhm.
back. Yeah, because Bowfinger's underrated and that's quite fun.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, so, and then I went back and watched his the last like like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and things like that. Um, but yeah, yeah, he's definitely and yeah, like Three Amigos. I think he's definitely one that stuck with me. Definitely, and one that I sort of think my dad's a huge fan as well. So like he would, sometimes I'd be like, if I cause when I was a kid and still now, I like sort of like random surprises. So sometimes I'd be like, oh, are you going by the video store? Yeah, I just pick me out anything. So just pick me out like uh, a lot of like Steve Martin stuff. So yeah, no, that's sort of how I get to know it. And then yeah, the Jerk I think was in amongst those movies. Probably you probably watched it before. I probably before a lot of parents probably
We all
watched it.
see it before we're probably supposed to. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But yeah, but I was still able to. Yeah, it's cool. And I've watched it a few times since then, but it's cool watching as an adult getting more of the jokes because yeah, the this joke. I mean, yeah, all the good jokes are in the trailer we just watched, but still a lot of good jokes. Yeah, there's a lot of jokes in this movie, so it comes at you. So, yeah, it was good to get those jokes now, but it's really entertaining, and yeah, every time like even when something like later on like and when I was in the building when he pops up in something I'm sort of interested, even though I'm not a big TV guy like you. So yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, no, and I think oddly enough, we may be similar in that I think the first Steve Martin comedy I probably saw in theaters was Bowfinger. I do remember seeing Bowfinger in the theaters, but I think the one I was sort of most familiar with, maybe from like TV and stuff at the time, was probably Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because they used to come on a lot, on cable around the comedy. I was more of a John Candy fan, but because he was in that movie as well, I always liked that one because I thought they had great chemistry. Maybe we'll do that movie on here at some point. I'm sure it's on the wheel somewhere.
yeah,
But yeah, and then I knew him from a lot of his SNL bits because I do have the SNL DVD of like the best of Steve Martin, which is they have best of ones of even just the people who hosted a lot who weren't official, cast members because there's like a best of SNL Tom Hanks and a Steve Martin, some of those Alec Baldwin, some of those guys that just hosted a whole bunch of times. And yeah, his DVD is really funny as well. The King Tut stuff and the stuff where he's with the Coneheads and just various that he would do on there. Did some of his stand-up bits on there as well. But yeah, I know a lot of people know him from kind of his early stand-up. That's how he kind of got this movie. There's a lot of things in this movie that were kind of directly from his stand-up, and I'll get into that when I get into some of the trivia bits. But yeah, kind of leading into the movie, December 14th, 1979. So kind of a Christmas movie, oddly enough, a Christmas release for the Jerk. Directed by Carl Reiner, one of his good buddies, and then one of his comedy buddies. Him and Carl Reiner, Steve Martin, Mel Brooks, all kind of good buddies. They all kind of work with each other and produce each other's stuff. So yeah,
in
this
the
track.
trailer, so we'll talk about him. He's in the movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, no, Carl Reiner, yeah, is in the movie. Yeah, for a little bit. Yeah, he pops up definitely as well. And yeah, and he would go on to work with him again, I believe, with like the Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid and the Man with Two Brains. He did a couple other
yeah,
Carl Reiner movies, so a
yeah,
few there. So they would collaborate a couple of times. The movie started at Paramount and then got dropped because of kind of a lack of interest. Universal picked it up and got it going after about a 2-year hiatus. Budget of $4 million, box office $100 million. They made a hell of an investment in this movie,
oh yeah,
and for 1979, $100 million is a hell. That's a big hit, and
yeah.
that's certainly a
I,
big success.
Ironically, I watched this on Paramount Plus. Uh,
Oh, I think it's because it originally was at Paramount, so maybe they still have like a rights thing, or maybe they, again, some of these movies they bounce streaming rights from studio to studio, so you'll see it on a streaming service for a little while, and then it'll bounce to another one, for a little while. They bid on movies, so it's not like exclusively on certain ones sometimes.
yeah,
But yes, yeah, but yeah, big hit, and definitely to make $100 million back then, since there was less screens, there was less multiplexes, and whatnot. You had to have good word of mouth. So this one definitely
yeah,
had good word of mouth among audiences to make $100 million, especially with the comedy back then, for
yeah.
sure.
No, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it's kind of saying I don't feel like just because I with people like less going to the maybe just I don't know if like a sort of a mid-budget film kind of gets that much love these days. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. But
It's
like
hard to
I
tell which ones will catch fire and which ones won't. It seems kind of random at times which ones do.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I can't really tell anymore. I mean, look at the first Megan as opposed to the new one. You know, the first becomes this kind of
yeah, yeah,
mid-budget hit that catches on, and this new one not catching on as much. So I don't know. Like you never can tell with these movies, or just one kind of comes out of nowhere. And what was like that Blake Lively movie based on a book that made like $100 million just quietly out of nowhere? The one
yeah.
from
Oh,
last year.
Into Us, yeah, and then
Yeah,
yeah. I would say there's a sequel to that, but then obviously that whole
sure.
regulation and well, so but yeah, it is sort of weird, like all these things that kind of pop up and make a lot of money, even ones that you think are going to be surefire don't necessarily, you know, you don't. Yeah, it's hard to. There's no strict formula now, I guess. After it's where it's like, yeah, that's
No.
going to make a lot of money. Oh, yeah, but yeah, maybe. I mean, I kind of figured Minecraft would, you know what I mean? It's like, that's gonna,
But even
yeah.
then, did you really expect it to make like close to $1 billion? I
Oh,
figured it'd be a
probably
hit,
not.
but
Not
like,
not not that.
I figured it would
No.
make money, but to last as long as it did, and then like those weird, viral things, and people making TikTok trends out of it, so it makes more money, organically, but not like a forced one like Morbius tried to do, but more like an organic one.
What
you know,
re-release it? Yeah,
yeah, trying to re-release it off of something that wasn't like an organic thing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I can't tell anymore, man. I don't know. Some movies make money, some just don't. I don't know. But yeah, so eighth highest grossing movie of 1979, so it did very well. Yeah, a couple little notes here. I don't have a ton of notes, but a few. Bill Murray had a cut cameo from the movie where he played a gay interior decorator of the house he eventually moves into, the mansion, that
Yeah.
was cut and has never seen the light of day. It's not even deleted on the DVD or anything like that. It's just never. It's cut and it's gone. But Murray has talked about it. It wasn't a very large role, just a straight cameo. But he was friends with Steve Martin and wanted to give him a quick little role in the movie, but it's not in the movie, so you can only
This would
imagine.
just be this would be kind of after Meatballs, right? Was it just after Meatballs?
Same year as Meatballs, but they were both, again, Tully, he was on SNL for that one season, so they may probably, met there and became friends. I'd imagine so. So, yeah, I mean, maybe they were just, buddies and just trying to help each other out back then.
Yeah.
The poor black child, line, which is basically the premise of the movie, according to Martin, is like that was a
Yeah.
line in his stand-up career he would open with when he would come out, start his monologues with that. The movie kind of spawned from that. So like that was the initial kind of idea of like this grown white man, growing up in sort of a poor black household and thinking he's black and all that kind of stuff, kind of almost like a reverse of like the Dave Chappelle skit, the Clayton Christmas skit a little bit.
I also got like Dewey Cox vibes, like with that
Yeah,
kind of.
this movie definitely gave me Dewey Cox vibes, especially like the scene where he's learning the blues. Remember we talked about that scene?
Yeah.
I got some very similar vibes from that. Yeah, a couple. Even the guy who plays the dad reminds me of the guy who teaches him the blues in that scene a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely got vibes of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if Apatow and those guys are fans of the Jerk, and maybe weaved in a little bit of that stuff. Dewey Cox. I wouldn't be surprised at all. The picking up the different items thing throughout the house as he's leaving is also a stand-up bit he used to do as he was leaving the stage. He would do a bit similar to that, so that's kind of where that comes as well. And again, other lines and little bits throughout the movie are part of stand-up.
Yeah, just me and this lamp, me and this.
In this ashtray, me and this paddle ball, me and this magazine, me and this remote control. Yeah, it's very, very funny. And I think that was, we'll talk about it when we get there, but I think it was one of those scenes that was also like very improvised where he just kept picking up stuff as much as he could carry, around the scene to see how much he could hold. So it was very, very funny. We'll get there. Oddly enough, Stanley Kubrick was like a giant fan of this movie and would quote it a lot on his sets. when he needed to like liven up the sets. So much so that he wanted to work with Steve Martin, but never got the opportunity to, and wanted to like put him in a movie. But then he
Okay.
died, obviously, right after Eyes Wide Shut was completed. So he never got a chance to do that. But he was one of the more notorious fans of this movie. So I found that on several different sites. So it's got to be true.
Might have been
Martin's.
jarring to see Steve Martin and Stanley Kubrick because he what Stanley Kubrick was something. I mean, Steve Martin never really branched out to hugely dramatic stuff, and Stanley Kubrick never did much comedy. So
Comedy.
really,
Yeah, I mean, he did Strange Love, but Strange Love is like more deadpan comedy. Like, I don't know if it's like Martin style of
yeah,
comedy. It's
yeah,
very like deadpan satirical comedy. So yeah, it's a completely
yeah,
different. It's not wacky absurdist comedy like The Jerk is, or
yeah,
Three Amigos, or or situational
yeah.
stuff like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Yeah, it's a very different style. I don't know if they would gel, but maybe he would have done some dramatic acting. I don't know, just written him a
Yeah.
weird side role or something. Martin's favorite line was an ad lib. It's the line where he goes to get picked up for a second time, and the guy goes, "St. Louis," and he goes, "No, David Johnson," and just says his name. That's an ad lib, and it ended up being Martin's favorite line of the movie. It is a very funny line, and that feels like a very Naked Gun line of just like one of those matter of
Yeah,
fact, like sort of
yeah, yeah, hot
airplane.
shot. Yeah,
Yeah, hot shots airplane kind of line. Yeah, that's definitely what it feels like. And yeah, again, not a lot of multiplexes around the time, things like that. A lot of movies either just had one screen, or if you had sort of a multiplex, you only had two or three screens. So I'll pop off some of the other movies that were playing around the time. But again, most movies didn't break 100 million. Only a select few did, kind of your top teners. But yeah, your number one movie around this time, the eventual Best Picture winner, Kramer versus Kramer. Richie, was your top movie around
yeah.
this time, a big hit. And while again, I think people get the wrong idea. I don't hate that movie. I just think Apocalypse Now should have won Best Picture that year.
Oh yeah,
That's just
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get it.
that's just my only beef with Kramer versus Kramer. Is I think Apocalypse Now is just the
Yeah, no, I
rankings
get
just
it.
better
I
film.
probably, I almost probably have the same opinion to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star Trek The Motion Picture is in theaters around this time as well. Again,
Uh,
that was a big leap to the big screen, if you remember. Big hit, and did
kind of
really
a
well.
slog to get through, I'm gonna be honest. But
It's
I
a
don't know.
slog to get through, but I think they learned their lesson. That's why Star Trek 2 is a better film. So,
Yeah,
sometimes the sequels are better, and that's a case where it definitely is.
yeah.
Got a movie called The Electric Horseman, which I've never seen, which was a big hit. I don't know. I haven't seen
I
it.
don't know. I mean, yeah, one of those big hits that never translate, that never carried over to other
Carry it
decades.
over. You got All That Jazz, which is a great Roy Scheider movie. If you haven't seen it, that I actually really
I,
like, where he's the head of the ballet company. It's actually a really good movie. If you haven't
is
seen
that
it, it's
the remake or is it the actual is it a original?
no. You're probably thinking of the jazz singer.
I'm just saying. I know. Yeah, actually, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
All That Jazz is a very kind of gritty New York Roy Scheider movie. Yeah, and it's a good one though. So yeah, again, give it a
Yeah.
shot. It's kind of a music movie, but it's good. I like it. You got Disney's The Black Hole, if you remember, kind of a sci-fi movie they did in '79.
Okay, vaguely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't gone back and watched it in a long time. I don't know if it holds up. You got Steven Spielberg's 1941, which is kind of a notorious, disaster a little bit.
Yeah.
Made a little money, but kind of widely considered maybe one of Spielberg's sort of lesser projects. I don't think it's like horrible, but it has its moments. It's an interesting movie to talk about, if anything, but kind of
Yeah.
an interesting failure, overall. And then a few movies I've never heard of. Well, Being There I've heard of, but I haven't seen. I got a movie called Going in Style, and then number 10, Roller Boogie. Just a roller
Roller. Okay.
skating, just kind of dance movie. Yeah, I've never heard of either. Probably came and
The
went.
only,
To-
only going in style I've heard of is that Morgan Freeman, Alan Arkin movie. That was it. Zach Bradford. Remember with that
yeah,
front.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the only going in style I've
Yeah.
heard of. But yeah. So
Now
yeah,
there's another movie in '79 called Going in Style. I haven't seen it, so don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Roller Boogie. I might have to look that up.
But yeah, I just one of those movies where it's like kind of a dance music movie, just capitalizing off of like
Really?
roller discos were like a thing for about 2 years, and
Oh
so
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
kind of a movie, about that. So,
yeah,
I'd imagine just one of those trendy movies, capitalizing on the time period. Pretty much, that's it.
yeah,
Similar with in the '80s, you get like the break-in movies, with break dancing for 2 years. They do the
yeah,
break-in movies.
yeah. I remember even like later movies, like I guess it was set around that time, but like I remember seeing that movie Monster of Charlie Theron, and that has a roller, you know, like dancing, like kind of scene with him and like
Mhm.
Chrissy and Richie. But I'm thinking, I don't even think they ever had something like that in New Zealand or Australia. I can't remember anything like that. I don't know if it was an American thing, but yeah. Although
We
maybe
still have some roller skating rinks around the time. I know roller blading, was a big fad, in the late '90s, early
yeah, yeah,
2000s.
definitely,
Yeah,
yeah. But
and the
yeah,
skating rinks kind of came back for a little while because of roller blading. People go to the skating rinks and roller blade, as well as roller skate. So it kind of resurged for a little while, but I know there's only a few here and there still left, like a very select few.
yeah,
I've seen various like TikTok people who like do roller skating, like roller disco videos and things that are like really good dancers while they do it, here and
yeah.
there. But yeah, it's a very select kind of hobby nowadays.
I've, I've seen those ones where they're like it's like rollerblading diamonds. Like there was that it was when Flintstones of Eagle Rock Vegas. I think that Betty's going on is rollerblading, which is weird because it's supposed to be a prehistoric thing. But
Right. What do they make, like rock rollerblades in that movie? I haven't seen that movie forever.
but yeah, but yeah, but I do kind of I don't know. There's like I'm I mean, it did come back in like yeah in the '90s with the like roller. And I remember watching Rocket Power on Nickelodeon,
Oh yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
thing. But like yeah, well, I kind of wish I was in that sort of phase where it's like all the this disco, that disco rollerblading thing. That's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
But
I'll have to see how that movie seems. Maybe it's on Tubi. I don't know. It probably is.
yeah,
Um, seems like a Tubi movie. But yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, I'm assuming you said you'd seen The Jerk before, but like what's your
yeah.
history with this movie particularly?
So yeah, I probably definitely like I said, I definitely watched it went like way before I probably should have. But like in terms of age, but yeah. So I can't remember how old I was, but it was yeah when I was really starting to get into Steve Martin, and I was just going through his filmography, and then came across this one, and yeah, it was yeah definitely the more quotable ones. Uh, of his filmography, and yeah, I probably was about maybe 10 or 11, maybe
Mm,
10, 11, 12. And yeah, but since then I've watched it about like, three, I think it's probably my fourth viewing today. So, I watched it before it came on here. So yeah, and yeah, but yeah, I really dig it.
yeah, oddly enough, this might have been like my third time or so watching it in the last year or so, because I think I watched it for like a rewatched it at least for a '70s like tier ranker we did. I think we did seven when we were doing our series of like decades and like action and horror and comedy, things like that. I think I rewatched it for that. We had it in our top 10, I'm pretty sure, of that episode. So I know that was only like a year or two ago. So I watched it for that. I know I watched it again, not like maybe 6 months ago. I think that we did a rankum of like '70s comedy. So I rewatched it again for that. And I'm pretty sure it made our list. And then yeah, I rewatched it again. So I've actually rewatched it quite a bit over the last year or two, oddly enough. And like I have the DVD and stuff, and I have it on my Vudu. Like I've seen it plenty of times. But yeah, like oddly enough, for whatever reason, it's come up like a lot in the last year or so. So
Yeah,
yeah, this is it's pretty fresh in my mind. Yeah, for the most part. But I think I'm kind of like you. I probably saw it on cable or something. Like I think my dad might have introduced it to me. Him knowing it, probably better than I would, as he introduced a lot of '70s comedies to me as well. So yeah, I'm sure I saw it at some point. I don't remember exactly when, but yeah, probably saw bits and pieces of it here and there. But yeah, let's jump into it. So yeah, like I said, the movie it's a rags to riches to rags story.
yeah,
If you had to describe it. It's one of those roller coasters where yeah, he starts out, well, actually the movie actually starts out, kind of jumping to the end as some of these do. We see him, he's homeless, he's drinking, and he's talking to the camera, kind of breaking the fourth wall, and whoa, what's my story? Like the way he talks in this movie is very funny. It's very matter of fact. You know,
Oh,
what's my story?
I'm
Well,
sure.
I'm a jerk. Yeah, no. But yeah, we get kind of we flash back, and it's very. I don't know how old he's supposed to be in the movie. Like they never really make it out like how old he's supposed to be in these scenes, like with the kids at the house. I wonder if it's
It's also Joey Cox vibes where he's very like
right.
childlike, smart, brain, and
Yeah,
but
no,
he
it's like in that movie when we watched Dewey Cox, how they have the kid actor, and then they flash forward to when he's 14, and they just jump to John C. Riley.
it's
Oh,
so funny. He's like
I'm a 14-year-old, ready to go out into the world. I want to say he might be playing like a late teenager or something. Like I don't know. It's hard to tell because he's like living with his family. They're treating him like a child. He's a virgin for sure because when you get to the carnival scene and he does it for the first time, like that's his first time, obviously, and he
yeah, that's
doesn't
very
know
cool.
like
Yeah,
he
makes
doesn't
the
know like what certain things are. Yeah, he's very like
be mad
naive to the world. Yeah, so I don't know like exactly how old he's supposed to be, but it kind of feels like it's like older Steve Martin playing like maybe like an 18-year-old or something, if I had to guess, maybe.
yeah,
But that just again makes it funnier because Steve Martin's one of those guys who we talk about these actors that were kind of born looking older. And like, I think Steve Martin, while not the same as like maybe a Tommy Lee Jones or Clint Eastwood or like,
Morgan
what
Freeman.
he's more comparable to is, who's in this movie who was kind of born old is M. Emmett Walsh, the guy who plays the
Yeah,
sniper. Like that dude
yeah,
always looks old, and he always looked old his whole career. Even here, like 40 years before he passed away, he looks like 60. And I think he's like maybe 35 or 40 in this movie. I'd have to look it
yeah,
up and see how old M. Emmett Walsh is. Rest in peace, by the way. He passed away recently, so
yeah.
RIP to M. Emmett Walsh, who's very funny in his couple of scenes in this movie. But yeah, Steve Martin just because he doesn't have like the white hair yet, but he would get that pretty shortly after. But
Yeah.
again, he
The,
looks
the white hair's coming through though. It's not like fully
it's starting
brown.
to, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, technically, during this movie, so Martin's born in 1945. I have the Wikipedia pulled up. So he's 34, like in this movie. Like, the actor Steve Martin is 34. But
yeah,
again, I don't know how old the character is supposed to be.
yeah.
And yeah, I was just going to look up and see how old. God, M. Emmett Walsh is like 44 in this. He looks 60. One of those
Yeah,
guys that just looks old,
yeah.
even when he wasn't old. Yeah, just one of those guys. Yeah, he's a rough 44. Again, RIP. I know he just passed away last year, and he's a great character actor. I love the guy. He's been
Mhm.
in a million movies, but yeah, we'll talk about. But yeah, we kind of get this premise, where he's living with this kind of poor black family. He's got a bunch of siblings and whatnot. They haven't like he I guess he thinks he's gonna turn black someday. It's one of the great, lines where he says, you mean I'm gonna stay this
You know,
color?
yeah,
It's very funny. It's one of the great lines. Again, kind of a reverse like Clayton Bigsby situation where Clayton Bigsby thinks he's white. It's kind of a reversal of that. It's very funny, but he acts white because they're trying to do dance to the music. He has no rhythm. He's out of sync. He doesn't know how to dance. Yeah, he's off on his clapping. But he hears like white people music, and all of a sudden he gets it, which is very funny on the radio. He stopped listening to like
his feet
he
start like
hears
this.
like he hears like white people, big band, like jazz music, and all of a sudden he says it speaks to him. It's very funny.
He's like, oh my god, and he wakes them up. He's like, oh my god,
Yes.
it speaks.
Turn it up. I can
Yeah,
get it. Yeah, and he's in rhythm with the white music. So yeah, it kind of inspires him to to go out and kind of explore the world a little bit. Again, he's very naive to the world. It seems like he's never really left at least this town, wherever he is. He's never really left this area. He's kind of always been here. So he's going to go to the nearest big city, which I guess is St. Louis. So I guess they're in that's in Missouri over here. So it must be like deep South Missouri. There is like remote areas of Missouri and whatnot. So kind
yeah.
of deep South area, which I would imagine kind of in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, it's another great scene where he finally goes to hit the road and he goes to hitchhike and he just stands in front of the house with his thumb out all day and all night, just waiting for a random car to come by.
And then he finally, this is hilarious. He finally gets somebody, and he goes, he's like, how far do you, yeah, well, like, how, he goes, where are you
How far are
going?
you
He goes,
going?
to the end of that fence.
Yeah, he goes, all right. So he gets in. He
All
goes,
right. Yeah.
What's your name? David Johnson. All right, have a good day. And he steps out of the car and he's out the fence. And they're having this like serene moment, around the dinner table, and they're like, I wonder how Naven's doing. Bill, I sure miss him. And then he goes, I wonder how he's doing. The girl yells out the window, David, how you doing? He goes, I'm all right. I think I see a car coming. It's very so yeah, love these early scenes of the family. It's very sweet, but it's very like, what I thought of, Richie, the movie that this would make a great kind of double feature with, and I would call it the kind of naive to the world, just happy to be there kind of movies, is this and Coming to America. I think are very similar.
Yeah.
Remember, like Coming to America, how, and it's a different situation in that where, Eddie Murphy's character comes from wealth. It's like the opposite, but then kind of experiences sort of, the poor world, just working at like a fast food restaurant and living in like a crummy apartment, and kind of, but being happy to mop the floors and
Yeah.
live in kind of dumpy areas and like, but so like happy to do anything. It's very
Yeah.
similar in this movie where like, I think it would make a great double feature of like, similar fish out of water kind of situations. And it really works.
Yeah. Or even, I mean, like to a lesser extent, but just like those people that come from different worlds who don't, who don't understand, like, how to behave proper, like almost like a Borat vibe as well, where he doesn't know
Yeah.
how to, you don't know, he doesn't know how to, you know, he it just doesn't know how to, kind of,
To navigate the
show
world like
himself
no one
around
else. Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to behave in certain situations. Yeah, he doesn't know what the right things to say or not to say. But yeah, so he stops at like this motel, encounters a dog who's barking at him. He sort of does a
Yeah. He's
Lassie
like,
thing
"What?
where he's like, "What's wrong, boy? What? There's an emergency? There's an accident? There's a
Let's see,
fire!
fire.
Fire!"
There's fire. How is it?"
Yeah. And then he wakes everybody up. But they call the dog like a little shithead, and he names the dog Shithead, which is very funny. So the dog that stays with him the whole movie is called Shithead. That's a nice funny joke. Which I saw, by the way, online. If you watch the TV dub, they dub it stupid instead of shithead. So he just calls him stupid in the TV dub. But yeah, that's very funny. And yeah, the dog's kind of a side, his little sidekick throughout the whole movie. They hang on to.
You'd think they do the opposite thing where when like you'd think that when there's like a human dog story, the bond gets
Mhm.
stronger. Like as the movie progresses, he just becomes more. The dog becomes more apathetic to him.
Well, and apparently, I also read as well. Steve Martin's first encounter with the dog, he like accidentally like stepped on him or something like that.
Yeah.
Accidentally, so the dog didn't like him from the beginning. So apparently, the dog like really didn't like Steve Martin legitimately. So it wasn't hard to get the dog to like growl at him and struggle when he picks him up and things like that every time he does. So that like actually wasn't that hard to do because he was not a fan of Steve. So that only makes it even funnier, yeah, because the dog, yeah, gets more and more like angry with him as the movie gets on, which is very funny. But yeah, he has, yeah, there's kind of this extended sequence where he encounters Jackie Mason at a gas station, who's an old timey comedian. If you don't know who Jackie Mason is, he was kind of big on like variety shows back in the 60s and 70s and the roasts and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he gets a job at this gas station for like $1 an hour. And he's just like, $1 an hour. He's like, wow. He just thinks it's like this amazing amount of money. He's sending back like $1.50 to his family, in these postcards. He's sending them like $1.
Yeah.
Like,
And he's like, "Oh, you can stay here." Then they go to the bathroom. Oh my God, I can take this wall out. Oh my God, I mean,
I can hang a bookshelf here right above the toilet.
Toilet. He goes, no, not room, just for a minute. Still a shit. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, he takes him in like the back storage room, like the storage area where it's just got all the junk, from the gas station. And he's just like, I don't have to change anything in here. This is perfect. It's amazing. Again, he's just kind of happy to have like his own space. No, it's very funny. Yeah, he starts working at this gas station. Yeah, there's a kind of a scam thing these guys try to pull with him where they've got like, it is funny where he's like, we only accept credit cards, it's Sunday, so they're like, do you have a credit card? And they looking through the 3 different stolen purses for credit cards and finally pull one out. He's like, oh, Mrs. Dustbomb. Oh, nice to,
Yeah,
yes, of course.
So I'm like, hey, I immediately thought of Brian, obviously.
Brian, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Uh, but
But
yeah,
yeah,
even before that, I think it's funny. Yeah, it's like, look, I don't want anything that happened to the shop. My sex life depends on you because he's got this chick that's way too like,
just
way above his league, but
way
he's
above
just
his
wanting
pay grade.
money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very funny. It's like, yeah, she'll break up with me if anything happens at this gas station. Yeah, but he deals with these scammers. Yeah, there's a great bit where, yeah, he thinks he has this great idea to like chain, he saw in a movie to like chain it up to to something to, probably rip their bumper off or whatever. But he ends up pulling out the entire section of the church nearby because he hooks it to a hose, a garden
And
hose
he
thing,
and he
attachment,
keeps going
and
back
puts
and
the thing.
forth with his payphone. It's like, I got him. I
I got
know.
him.
I got him. I found this in the movie.
He's like, oh, okay, it's a blue Chevy two door. All right, it's a blue Chevy two door pulling a church. So if you see a blue Chevy two door pulling a church,
It's like I think people playing music on it. Like,
yeah, yeah, it's very funny. It's a good bit. We get the Emmett Walsh bit as we kind of talked about, where he's like just this random lunatic who likes to randomly. It's like the DC sniper. Like I know you're in Australia. But we had a guy about 20 years ago, a guy and like a kid who like they called him the DC sniper, who went around and started sniping random people around Washington DC. It was really a scary
oh yeah.
situation. Just like randomly, there was like no like rhyme or reason to it. But yeah, this random lunatic who's just like gonna kill this guy for no reason just because he's a regular Joe. He's just like, oh, this regular milk bastard, I'm gonna shoot you, you milk bastard.
It preceded the fact that like he got all excited because his name was in the phone book. He was like
Yeah.
he was like
Oh yeah.
he was like, oh my god, I'm in the phone book, yeah. And he's like, my information on and then something like more like, oh yeah, no one's gonna find me out or something, and just like, and then also, you, and then every time you miss, he's like, you average run of the mill guy, you run. And
Nathan
then
Johnson, that sounds like a run of the mill asshole. Yes, that's very funny. You get the can bit, yeah, where he misses Steve Martin,
he
and
hates
yeah,
these
the cans are wrong.
cans.
Hey, somebody hates these cans. He really hates, and he keeps running. There keeps there's cans everywhere he goes. A soda machine that has cans. And then he runs away from that. He runs to the front window. There's cans in the front kind of window display. Oh, cans! I can't get away from the cans. He just keeps ducking out of the way. It's very funny. Yeah, Emmett Walsh just slowly losing it as he can't shoot him. Yeah, he's like, I don't think he's after the cans. He's after you. But yeah, no, it's a very funny bit, kind of a classic. Yeah, it just it almost reminded me of like a man who knew too much or man who knew too little kind of situation. There was a Bill Murray movie, the man who knew too much. Like it's kind of a spoof of the Hitchcock stuff where he's just, he doesn't know he's, he's in the middle of like an attempt. You know what I mean? He thinks it's all just a misunderstanding. But yeah, it's very very funny. So we get our next kind of extended sequence where he gets a job at a traveling carnival, kind of this sort of traveling carnival.
Guess your height.
Sort of thing.
I'll guess.
Yeah. Guess your height. I'll guess your weight. Come and win some crap.
I'll guess your sex. Is okay, what can I win? You can win anything.
Anything from here, this shelf, in this general vicinity, this 3 inches from here to the ashtray to the pencils. Like, cause there's like a blender there. There's like all these household appliances and toys and stuff. Yeah, you can generally win this here to here, and yeah, he thinks he's failed because he's given away a couple of pencils and like an ashtray, and like the dude's like, how much money did you make? He's like, 50. I only made $15. He's like, yeah, you only gave away 50 cents worth of crap and you made a net profit of $14.50. He's like, profit. Oh, so that's how it works. Okay. Like, yeah. And he's like, step right up, folks, and win some crap. Like, it's very funny. Yeah, the way he talks. This is where he meets one of the first ladies in the movie. He meets this daredevil motorcyclist played by Caitlin Adams. Yeah, Patty Bernstein. He meets Patty, and she's kind of, I guess, infatuated. Is she infatuated with him just because he's so naive? I guess, like, she sees it as like a challenge or something, like
kind of in like maybe today's parlance, like like because she seems like a very domineering, like she's very sort of butch personality, and he's like very because he's
Submissive.
naive, he'd be sort of a weak. He's someone he can take control over.
Yeah, and just dominate and control, and yeah, just kind of run his life. Yeah, because she gets to the point where she's like, "Don't even look at any of the other broads around here. You even bat an eye, and I'll kill you." Things like that. Yeah, she's totally like
She
domineering.
got my name tatted on her ass.
Yeah, yeah, gets his name tattooed. Yeah, but there's this kind of the very domineering relationship. Yeah, it's very funny. She obviously takes his virginity at some point. And yeah, it's a funny scene as well where you just hear from the outside. It's like, wow, this is like a ride. Like it's very funny. But yeah, it kind of it's definitely this sort of abusive relationship that goes on for a little while until he runs into Bernadette Peters, playing Marie, who's this very kind of sweet and innocent, lady that he runs into. Who, by the way, just trivia wise, Steve Martin and her dated for about 4 years. Around this
Okay.
time, they met on the set and hit it off in real life. So they dated for a little while, and broke it off, but apparently still were friends afterwards. So it was just kind of a little thing for a little while, but
Yeah.
it translated, both on and off the screen. So good for them, I guess.
That's cool. That's a nice story.
Yeah. But yeah, their introduction scene is very funny because she comes up to him as he's operating this like mini train. He's like a conductor for this little sort of miniature, kids train. And the line that made me laugh the hardest, still to this day, out of this movie, just because it's such a random, like non sequitur line, is she just goes, "Sir, I need you to help me find a kid. Yeah, he's a little short blonde kid wearing a t-shirt that says bullshit on it." I just thought that was so random and funny. A t-shirt with bullshit on it. I don't know why that made me laugh. I think it was just her delivery of it.
And he goes, "Oh no, I've seen a kid wearing something like that, some other slogan on it, but not bullshit."
Yeah, something very similar. Yeah, like dumbass or something like that. But there's kind of almost like this Benny Hill type sequence where he's kind of like running after the train as the kid is like looking back and operating the train and running it out of control and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a funny little sequence. But yeah, they kind of hit it off. He asks her out. They kind of has to be wary of obviously the daredevil it's like daredevil domineering girlfriend, so they're trying to have this sort of fling on the side, but it all comes to a head. They have a big confirmation, but Bernadette Peters shows that she's kind of tough and like punches her out, and kind of you should like kick her down below as well, and then like punches her out or something like that. Yeah, and kind of takes him, takes her. She vows revenge, but I don't think we ever see her again. Really, that's about the last time we see her in the movie.
Yeah, it was like, but then they always have this whole conversation where it's like, "Hey, do you have have a boyfriend?" So no, do you have a kid? Maybe yeah, maybe you can think of him while we have sex.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's just so funny.
Yeah. But yeah, they kind of be in a relationship. He kind of maybe a little too soon decides he wants to marry Marie, and yeah, there's that kind of funny sequence where he's in the bathtub. Like
before that, because before that, and they're kind of like they have that sort of melee of like having a good time on the beach. He goes, it really doesn't seem like it's been 4 weeks and 3 days. It seems more like 9 weeks and
Oh,
5
I've got the lines right here because I pulled up an IMDb thing. It goes, I know we've only known each other 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days. I mean, the first day seemed like a week, and the second day seemed like 5 days. But the third day seemed like a week again, and the fourth day seemed like 8 days. And the fifth day he went to see your mother, and that just seemed like a day. Like it's very, it goes on for like a whole monologue. It's very funny. Just the point of complete absurdity. He's like, I have it written down, but I'll show you tomorrow if you want to see it. Yeah, again, it's very silly, it's very absurd, but it's very funny. But yeah, there's the funny like bathroom scene where he's in the bathtub, yeah, like taking a bath, and he's talking to her for while she's in the other room, and he's kind of like singing, yeah, he's singing to her. He's like,
she's
just
got a trumpet.
just,
Gag before.
yeah,
She's got a random
yeah. Yes, Trump. Yeah, they're going back and forth. But he asks her to marry her, and but she kind of, she turns him down. And yeah, she's not kind of ready for that, that life yet and whatnot. But yeah, so yeah, because she thinks because he's too poor, like he can't provide like a a life for him or whatever. So, but yeah, he gets tracked down by Emma Walsh, who's a private investigator, tracks him down, thinks he's gonna kill him, but he's actually just trying to deliver like a message from the guy he met at the gas station, which we neglected to mention. He meets a guy at the gas station and rigs up a thing for his glasses that kind of it's like an attachment that sits on the bridge of his nose, so his glasses keep falling off. Yeah, and he fixes it, and the guy comes back later in the movie. It's a plan for later because the guy is like an inventor, sort of a guy who runs a company or like a marketing company. And yeah, he inadvertently invents something called the Optigrab, because you can grab it and it kind of, because he sees a guy at the bank right after he goes to cash his check that he gives him, and the guy even at the bank is wearing one of them, the Optigrab things. 250 big ones. Oh yeah. And he thinks it's $250, but it's $250,000. Yes. Oh, yeah. And yeah,
I just sort of flashing over when like he writes that note, and then but he's in the bath, right? So he smothers it. So he's like, "Ow!"
I can't see because the ink is running down the paper.
Then he runs out naked. He's like, "I couldn't read the note," and he grabs a dog, another dog to come around.
Yes. Again, the movie plays like almost like a series of sketches, but it's all very funny. Yeah, it's very funny stuff. Yeah, he's covering himself with the dog. But yeah, thus begins kind of the next act of the movie, which is the rich portion of the movie, where he's now successful and rich, and he's getting these checks, from this Optigrab. It's become a huge success. He's made like $10 million or something, is what they say, something like that. He's worth millions of dollars now. Yeah, he buys a mansion that clearly is way more expensive than $10 million. So I don't know how he does it. This is I looked this up. This is actually the Real House of a Sheik that lived in Los Angeles, like a Middle Eastern sheik. So this is like a super, super, crazy, almost like a drug cartel mansion. It looks like the mansion from Bedazzled, if you remember the Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, where
with like the giant backyard and like the 3-layer pool and like all kinds of stuff back there, all the statues. He's like, remember, Mom, how I always told you I was going to get a house with a this, with a that, with a camel statue, with the the carpet, the vinyl carpeting on the side, and the couch and the thing, and like it goes on and on and on to where it gets more funny. And he had the statues in the backyard.
It was around this time, I think. It was like, again, I think the time I laughed the hardest was just a throwaway thing as well, where I think because he's a butler now as well, and he goes, so there's charity here, so you like, and he goes, what? There's people far more deserving than I am. I just like, I don't know. I just found that It's like, no, you give to charity. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the charities is to stop the infamous stop the cat juggling in the video that he sees. The guy shows him where it's like this video from like Tijuana, Mexico, of a guy like doing underground cat juggling. Yeah, it's for juggling cats. It's very funny. He's like, oh, it's so horrible. It's a real tragedy. So he needs money to stop the cat juggling. So it's very funny. And Steve Martin, by the way, is playing the cat juggler under a different name. So that's him. Under all the stuff. Yeah. But yeah, he's making like crazy investments, with people where they're just telling him, "Oh, this is gonna diversify. Oh, diversify. Yeah. So, oh, this is they're telling him all these keywords. He's just agreeing with everything, as he's going along. He has no idea how to invest money. He has a disco club in his house where he pays people to just dance, at the disco club. That's very funny as well. Just blowing money left and right on everything.
Yeah,
Just definitely like living the high life. But it all comes crumbling down, Richie, because there's a problem with the OptiGrab, and that's people are going cross-eyed because of it.
yeah.
People
So
who are wearing it are like staring down the bridge of their nose, I guess, and they're getting like this cross-eyed thing where their eyes are kind of, crossing to the front of them, and it's
so
screwing people up.
he has a party at his house, and they're about to like have this. I think
Yeah.
they're going to see this interview, this really important interview with them on that's going to be on TV, and then they cut it short, going, "No, we just learned a recent development about Navin," and it cuts to Carl Reiner,
Hmm.
and he goes,
With these
"Oh,
absurdly stupid fake, like, yeah, cross-eyed, him doing this, like,
and he
looking
goes,
at
I'm
him in
going to
weird
sue
ways.
you. I'm suing him because yeah, I worked on a film, and I didn't know when to yell cut. I yelled cut too early."
He didn't yell cut early enough, and then it's like a stunt car goes off a cliff and kills a guy
And then
because of a yeah. It's very, very absurd. Again, very silly. But it's like stock footage of some old like car chase or something, and like blowing through like a barricade. Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah, he goes to court and everybody on the jury has the cross eyes from
the
the
cross-eyed,
yeah,
and
from the thing. So they find him guilty and he has to pay back like a $10 million settlement, but to like the 9,900,000 people or something that filed
yeah,
the
yeah,
lawsuit.
those 9 million, like witness or like plaintiffs or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is another very funny scene because then it cuts to him at this desk with this mountain of checks, and he's writing
Yeah.
individual checks for $1.15 to everybody. As he's going, a dear or so and so, $1.15. He pulls the check out, puts it in the stack. He's writing, gotta write like 9 million checks. It's very funny. And yeah, that's where everything comes crumbling down. Marie is gonna leave him now. Yeah, he's historian. This is where we get, yeah, as he's throwing his fit, over what I don't need you. All I need is this paddleball set and this ashtray, this remote control, and this lamp, and this magazine. He keeps picking up stuff. The chair, which is where you get the poster from, with him kind of with a chair under his
Yeah.
arm, holding all the stuff. This is where you get that, and this chair, and this that, and yeah, it was a completely improvised scene where it was just like, just pick up as many props as you can and just keep saying things, and it just keeps going on and on and on to the point of just stupid silliness. And my favorite shot is they next see him like walking down the sidewalk, and not only is he carrying his stuff, but his pants are around his ankles as well, just shimmy
Yeah.
along the sidewalk as he gets on the bus.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great little, like, yeah, again, kind of payoff to it. But yeah, this is, and then the movie kind of again does the thing where it catches up with him, where he is in the beginning, where it catches up with him, telling the story as he's kind of living, on the streets as well, and that's a story, and I'm a jerk, all that kind of stuff. And his family comes and finds him, and they come in and rescue him, from his, from his poverty and whatnot. And yeah, he hops in the car and he goes back, to live with his family. But they have invested his money, Richie, that he kept sending him. They invested the money for him.
Yeah.
So they're not wealthy, but they've put like an addition onto the house. So it's like
Yeah.
an extra, like a guest house attached to the original house, is what it looks like, something like that. But yeah, and Marie kind of comes back with him. But it's like an addition just to the same shack, and whatnot.
Yeah, it looks it's very similar to what it was. Yeah, it's more, yeah, like it's yeah, it's it's just very similar to what it was. It's just
Oh
a
yeah,
more
no, it's just larger square footage wise, but it's like the same thing essentially.
yeah.
Yeah, just like an extra room like attached to it and whatnot. Yeah, Marie comes back and they do like their little dance on the porch again, and that's kind of it. But yeah, again, there's so many other like kind of quotes and stuff. Like, I mean, throughout the movie where it's just like, yeah, we talked about the "I'm not going to stay this color" thing. That's funny. When he calls his thing his special purpose, I found out what my special purpose is yesterday, Ma. Like that's very very funny stuff. Um, yeah,
Uh,
the St. Louis Nathan Johnson thing is funny. That's a great little bit. Um, yeah, like you said, like, there's so many like everything feels like I said, kind of these sketches or these set pieces, where it kind of goes from a clear like here's the gas station section of the movie and here's the carnival section of the movie. It's very like squared away where you could tell they had like, all right, here's the ideas of like the settings and the setups and whatnot, and we kind of filled in. He said Martin has said in interviews like him and Carl Reiner, because of the 70s gas shortage, they were carpooling every day. So they were always kind of like coming up with new lines and new jokes for the scenes and whatnot and things they would try out, on the set, alternate things and whatnot. Like I'd love to see kind of a alternate reel of like alternate jokes for this thing. How they do those Linorama things on the DVDs sometimes. I
yeah,
would have
yeah.
loved to see that because I know they had a bunch of different alternate jokes and whatnot. But yeah, movie's very quotable, very funny. But yeah, I mean, not too much else to go into, just story wise. Very simple story, like I said, rags to riches to rags, kind of a story and whatnot. But yeah, Richie, any other like shout out little scenes or quotes you want to shout out from the movie, anything like that?
Uh, uh, nothing that like I think uh, nothing that like we haven't already talked about, but like as far as like quotes go, uh,
Yeah,
uh, but yeah, it's like, but yeah, no, it is just very, very like yeah, it's just generally hilarious, and yeah, it's one I always go back to. It's very fun. Yeah, I love it. I'll just get the door, but yeah, keep gushing about it. I'll be back in a few
no worries.
seconds.
Yeah, no, I'll shout out a few more of the lines. Yeah, there was a funny line from Rhea where she's like, I don't care about the money, I just care about the stuff. That's a good little line. Um, uh, there's a line about we need two forms of application when he's at the bank, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, my driver's license and my astronaut application, which I completely failed, other than the date of birth." So that's a funny little line there. Yeah, a lot of MM Walsh's stuff. You gas pumper, die, middle bastard. That stuff is fun. Um, let's see. We don't know. Where the family finally finds him when he's homeless, and he's like, "Mom, Dad, how'd you find me?" We don't know. This is the first place we looked. We just happened to find you. That's very funny. They just got to Los Angeles and found him. So that's a funny little quick line. And there's a lot of little quick lines that are very funny in this movie and whatnot. Um, oh, Patty goes, "Give me a bite of that corn dog. What about the germs? I'll put a rubber on it." That's pretty funny. There's a lot of good there's a lot of lines you could catch on like a second and third viewing that are very very funny. But you can see why this is one of those word of mouth hits, or that one that people will go back and watch a second time. And yeah, like it's a movie that well, I don't think it's ever going to be in a rotation as far as like one of my favorite comedies of all time or anything like that. But when I do think about Steve Martin comedies, when I think about 70s comedies, specifically, this is certainly one of the ones that like kind of comes to mind first. This is one of the ones that I go to, and I recommend that if people haven't seen or want to see some early Steve Martin, or at least outside of the stuff, Richie, we talk about like, Planes, Trains, or Bowfinger, or even Little Shop of Horrors, things like that. If they haven't gone back and watched The Jerk, yeah, it's very funny. Again, I think it makes a great double feature with like a Coming to America or something like that. Just those sort of fish out of water, new to the world, kind of, naive to everything sort of comedies. But yeah, I think it still works. I think it still holds up. It's got some, little bits of, non-PC humor that works, that aren't too over the top, but they're just funny enough, kind of like Blazing Saddles, to where they work. The premise is absurd, but that's the point, and just the silliness of the whole movie. It's a very silly movie. I appreciate every now and then just a nice, silly, over the top movie, Richie. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think the Fish Out of Water kind of concept just works for comedies, like, and what sort of the other kind of it is the sort of the kind of setup to a lot of my favorite comedies. 40-Year-Old Virgin is Fish Out of Water in the sense that he doesn't know women. He doesn't do well with women. He's a nerd. So there's Fish Out of Water there of like having to socialize and get out there and actually connect with women. Yeah. So there's Fish Out of Water aspect. There's like the water boy is Fish Out of Water because he's like he's a very recluse guy having to joining this football there's and like like in this movie, and then like there's very and I think the Fish Out of Water aspect is very right for comedy, and I think it definitely works here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, if anybody hasn't seen it, I definitely recommend you go back and watch it. Whether you're a Steve Martin fan or just a fan of like those types of comedies, or if you just want something very silly, just very breezy. The movie's like 90 minutes. I've always advocated, Richie, maybe for like comedy should be around 90 minutes, not too long, not too short, just kind of that perfect length. I think most great comedies are around 90 minutes. It just works. So if you haven't gone back and watched it, definitely do so. We'll kind of wrap it up there. Kind of discuss what we got coming up. I don't know if we're going to do, I was going to talk to you about if we do a Michael Madsen tribute episode, because rest in peace, Michael Madsen. Kind of breaking news as of today doing this episode. Oddly enough, Richie, we just did probably his most famous movie just a few episodes ago with Reservoir Dogs, which I know was a first time viewing for you. So at least you can say you've seen Reservoir Dogs and have seen probably his most famous role with Mr. Blonde in that movie. Your quick thoughts on Michael Madsen, and do we do a tribute episode? We have a couple options if we could. There is obviously one of the Kill Bill movies. We could do Donnie Brasco, which he has a big part in, pretty famous role as well. Hell, we could do Free Willy. He's the dad in that movie. There's options. So it's up to you. But your very quick thoughts on Michael Madsen, and you're named to a tribute episode, because I've always liked him, but he's very well known. He was never really like an A-list guy, but he's a well enough guy. So I might leave it up to you.
You and I are very kind of big fans of like those sort of supporting actors, character actors, so so I think it'd be fit the show. I would say we could do a Michael Madsen episode. And I really liked him. It's obviously it'd be if we hadn't spun Reservoir Dogs, it'd be a no-brainer which one we'd go for. But we've already spun Reservoir Dogs, so I'm just because it's like random. I'm almost thinking of like I am almost leaning towards Free Willy, but like I would obviously the other two would be more suitable. But I like maybe like. I mean, I don't mind either of the three. I guess my favorite of the three is obviously Kill Bill.
And I do know, just thinking about his screen time, he has more screen time in Kill Bill Volume 2. So if we specified, I believe Kill Bill Volume 2, he has way more of a role in that movie. That's where they get into more of the stuff with him at the trailer, like the monologue that I love with him about the, we deserve to die, but then again, so does she. The stuff with them burying her, and the fight, or the stuff with the snake, the trailer. A lot of that stuff is in the sequel, I believe, right? Like most of his screen time is there, because I don't think he's really in the first one, other than a couple of the minor brief things where they're all just kind of standing around. So I mean, I would say either that or Donnie Brasco is the option on the table.
I would say Brasco. I mean, there's not really many big stars in Free Willy, to be fair. I'd be up for Kill Bill Volume 2.
Because we could do Kill Bill Volume 2 specifically and still discuss like our thoughts on Kill Bill Volume 1. You know what I mean? Like we could still.
And it might pop up. It might pop up on the wheel. I'm sure. I know it's on the wheel. It could pop up in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't have to go fully into Kill Bill Volume 1 because realistically, Kill Bill Volume 1 is more of the action movie. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff is like those actiony scenes, and like, a lot of it is more centric towards Uma Thurman and the bride. We could definitely like do a quick recap and our quick thoughts on Volume 1 and then talk more in depth about Volume 2, and especially, because it's more of the dramatic one of the two. I
yeah,
mean, I'm definitely down for it if you want to do that. Like, that's totally cool.
yeah. No, I think we should do that. I did. It occurred to me too that it's weird because they're not like these two aren't like in a ton of movies, but we've done a Michael Madsen movie and a Virginia Madsen movie on the show already.
Yeah, we sure have. Yeah, definitely.
And
Yeah,
yeah, I forget they're siblings, but
yeah.
sometimes. But yeah, but yeah, no, I think we got that in. Kill Bill Volume 2. That's fine by me.
All right, yeah. So, well, the question is, do we do it next week or do we do it in our usual 2 weeks from now? That's up to you. I'm down to just still do it 2 weeks from now.
I
Just
think
because
that we should, barring like, barring that, hoping that there's not another
big death. Yeah,
death we need to cover and we need to sort of cover. I think we can get away with having it just, doing it in 2 weeks. Um,
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I think if it was like a major, bigger director or like a bigger actor, like we would do it next week. But yeah, Michael Madsen again, we like him, and I want to do a tribute to him because he's a great recognized. And I like you, I love character actors. So, and he's certainly one of the most prominent ones, along with like a Trejo or something like that. Just has been in a million movies. But yeah, like I'm definitely down to. Yeah, we could just do that kind of in our normal 2 weeks because again, Kill Bill Volume 2 probably would have spun one of them at some point, because yeah, they're definitely on the wheel, so it tracks
yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I'm totally down for that. So yeah, let's do Kill Bill Volume 2. But again, we'll touch on Volume 1, in the episode, of course. How could we not? But
yeah.
we'll primarily focus. I mean, knowing me, I'll probably rewatch both of them anyways, so it's fine.
I to be honest.
I'll end up watching the double feature anyways, but
The whole
we'll
bloody
talk
affair. I got the whole
primarily.
bloody affair. Yeah, so.
Yeah, we'll talk primarily about Volume 2. So yeah, and we'll hone in on some of Madsen's stuff in there. But yeah, we'll do that in 2 weeks for Michael Madsen because yeah, I don't mind talking more Tarantino anyways. You know me, I love my Tarantino. So yeah, let's do it. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there. But anything you want to promote or plug, Richie? What you got going on?
Yeah, in a short time here, we've got Lonely Masters recapping Night of Champions, Be Me, It'll Be Me and Austin, and hopefully JPO. I think it's holding it. I think holding it. It's connected to holding up already. It'll be on as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Jacob's doing the comedies, but he should be back next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I've got a filming on Sunday. Got a Why We Eat Love horror match coming up soon, and yeah, got to, and then yeah, I believe I might also tomorrow maybe. I think I'm if that's still going on. I think I'm get crashing your stream with JPO with the best of 2025
Oh
so
yeah,
far.
we're gonna do our countdown, right? So it's the top 10, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're gonna do that tomorrow night again as long as JPO's thing holds out. Yeah, we talked about doing it at 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. So
yeah,
yeah, which won't take too long. We'll breeze through it. It'll only take an hour or so.
yeah.
Doing countdown. But yeah, talking about our best of the year so far. And I just saw Formula One today. That might make my list. It's damn good. So
Really cool. So yeah,
that
that might
movie
be
freaking rocks. Yeah. So we'll see where it actually ends up on my list. I'll have to tabulate that and see where it goes. But yeah, we'll be doing that on the Pierce Co. hopefully tomorrow night at about
yeah,
8 o'clock. So you can check that out. Yeah, with me, Richie, and JPO. And yeah, I figured you'd be on that because we'll do our worst of the year so far as well. I'm assuming the week or two after that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get to that as well. Yeah, and then just as far as next week on the show, I'll be, of course, co-hosting all the tournament fights shenanigans. Yeah, next week will be our 1993 ladder series. Those are always fun diving into the years. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a fun year as well. So yeah, we'll be doing that. But yeah, join us on the Lonely Marks Wrestling Podcast. I'll be posting a link to that in the Movie Hero Network Facebook group, so you can find that over there. I'll be posting that in a couple minutes. If you need a link over to that channel, we'd love to have you over there if you like wrestling. And yeah, we'll just be catching up on we took last week off because of my vacation, so we just got some news to catch up on, some things movies. Got some shows coming up the week after that, so we got a lot to talk about on the
Oh, yeah,
radar. So join us.
we're heading into a very busy time of
Very
wrestling.
busy weekend. Yeah, not quite yet. Next week will be our kind of official preview show where we'll preview everything. But we had some more developments happen for all those weekends, so we'll talk about that. More matches and stipulations and whatnot. So we'll get to that as well. But yeah, I think we'll settle this. Yeah, 2 weeks from now we'll do a little Kill Bill Volume 2 for Michael Madsen. So I think that tracks. And yeah, if you want to go back and hear us talk about Michael Madsen like we already did a few episodes, go back in our archives and look. We did do Reservoir Dogs coincidentally just a few episodes ago. So go check that out. We certainly talked about Michael Madsen on that show. So go check that out. But yeah, that'll do it for tonight. So Richie, as always, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time in about 2 weeks here on the Wheel of Movies. So we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.